Hello and welcome to the Ian Silverman Show. I'm your host Ilene, and on this week's program, our guests from Equality Florida and Pride Community Center discuss our local LGBTQ community, anti-discrimination protections, safe and healthy schools project, and the upcoming virtual Greater Gainesville Gala. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our program. I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Don Smith Lopez, statewide board member for Equality Florida, local activist for our LGBTQ community. And Don, it is wonderful to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Certainly, there's so much to know about our LGBTQ community and to understand. And so to get us started, just go to Equality Florida, for which you're a board member, and let us understand what that is.
Absolutely. So Equality Florida is the largest civil rights organization in our state. It was founded in 1997, and it fights for protections for the LGBTQ community, as well as trying to pass non-discrimination ordinances at the state level.
Okay, and it's something very necessary. To understand, of course, here we are in our own community, and we've been talking, are we an accepting community? What is it like to be LGBTQ and live in Gainesville and Alachua County? So take us back several decades to help us understand the journey.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because a lot of folks think because Gainesville is a bit more progressive community, that it is a big university town, so therefore these protections must have always been in place.
Right.
So unfortunately, it's not the case. And that's through my research that I've done and through also talking with my very good friend Bob Karp, who gave me a lot of background. I found out a lot about the Johns Committee back in the 50s. It actually was a legislative committee that had an open agenda pretty much to fight or to look for any, quote, violations of law. So they started with the African-American community. This was during the desegregation times. Racial tensions were very high, but the NAACP fought back. And so next they needed another target, and that was the LGBTQ community. And this was during the Lavender Scare, like similar to McCarthyism. So there were many people in our community at UF, many students and professors that were humiliated, they were interrogated alone without attorneys present, and they were persecuted. They were outed in the community. At that time, you couldn't find a job, so you couldn't find a home. So it was a terrible time period, and many people suffered because of the Johns Committee.
Yes, and only now are we taking a look back and maybe fully understanding how grim a time that was.
Absolutely. And in fact, there's a wonderful exhibit at the Matheson Museum.
Yes, enlightening.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We're fortunate to have that body of knowledge. And then from there, kind of bring us along through the journey again.
Yeah, in fact, the Gainesville City Commission attempted to pass an ordinance in 1981. So this was protections for sexual orientation, non-discrimination. Unfortunately, it failed on a 4-to-1 vote. And then it took another 10 years for the Alachua County Commission to actually attempt another ordinance in support for protecting the sexual orientation aspects. Gender identity was definitely not in anyone's forefront at that time like it is today.
Yes, we weren't all just talking about it and understanding it. It was not in the language.
That's right. And unfortunately, there was a petition that was against this ordinance, so it was repealed, and there was actually a charter amendment put into place that said a future commission couldn't even add these protections any longer. So it went back and forth at the county level, and in fact, Alachua County, it took 20 years till 2013 before a new ordinance was in place to add both sexual orientation and gender identity protections.
So in essence, really, it's taken a long time.
Absolutely, yeah. And in Gainesville too, the Gainesville had an ordinance that actually took even longer to get into place. And there was a lot of backlash to the ordinance at the time.
Right.
And again, it was only protecting sexual orientation, not gender identity. That came much later. That actually came very recently in the last couple of decades. So really, it's been a fight. It's been a struggle, and that's what really the takeaway that I've learned from looking into this work is that
knowledge.
Yes, is that you cannot assume that the protections are there. Folks really have to do the work and fight the fight in order to keep the protections, because
things can change. Things can change. They can go back. They can slide back.
Absolutely, absolutely, because it is a political climate. These are, ordinances that are in place to protect us. In fact, in the last couple of years, we've worked on a conversion therapy ban to protect young people against the very harmful effects of conversion therapy. And conversion therapy essentially is having a young person. A therapist actually tell a young person that they aren't who they are.
Right. Yeah, that they can talk them out of this.
Yes, exactly. Talk therapy, you're no longer gay just because
you had this. Which can do incredible harm.
Drastic harm to these young people that are very vulnerable and who are already dealing with coming out and their true feelings of who they really are. And now a medical professional is, attempting to tell them that that's not who they should be.
Exactly. Yes, my husband was part of the city commission, Harvey Budd, at that time, so very proud of that vote.
Oh, Harvey was a big supporter and a great friend.
Thank you very much. And Don, thank you and Bob for all of this knowledge. You were helping us to really understand the LGBTQ community and how we are all a part, all together. Thank you very much. Stay with us, much more to come. We're back talking about Equality Florida, and I'm pleased to introduce Ian Sellstrom, Associate Director, Safe Schools Projects, Equality Florida. And Ian, it's wonderful to have you visit us and join in the conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, certainly, because continuing from all that Don has shared with us, add a little more to our knowledge of Equality Florida.
Absolutely. So aside from the broad range of statewide work that Equality Florida is doing, we also have a lot of projects. And so the project that I'm specifically the associate director of is our Safe and Healthy Schools project. So what we are doing is we are making sure that all 67 Florida school districts are taking ownership over how to ensure every single child who steps into our schools and school districts feels safe, are affirmed, and can graduate successfully.
Okay, that's a tall order. How do you go about that? I mean, bullying, anti-hatred, discrimination, kind of bring it down to, the personal. How does one follow and make a difference in that way?
Absolutely. So I think one of the core tenets of our work is professional development.
Okay.
So in the 4 years that this program has been around, we've actually been able to train close to 30,000 principals, assistant principals, counselors, social workers, deans, teachers, the full gamut of professionals in our schools. And what we have seen is when we're able to have conversations about creating safe and inclusive and affirming environments for all children, our schools are safer, our schools are places where kids want to go, and we are seeing that the self-harm factors that we're so keenly aware of amongst this population of students is decreasing. So
that's wonderful to know. So you can see bit by bit changes are happening, and kids can learn in a safer environment. I mean, we know COVID has made it much harder all the way around, but you yourself was a teacher. I know now you're back at UF getting a master's. Go back to the days when you were teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I went to UF to sustainability major. I wanted to be a science teacher. But being in the classroom at the school I was at, I constantly saw that these conversations about supporting our students wasn't happening. As well, I had recently come out in college, and so going back into a public education setting, went right back in the closet. Because I was still afraid that I would be fired for being LGBTQ.
If the word was,
And so, that's really what's propelled me to be in this role that I'm at now, because I'm realizing that, the more that we can provide knowledge about this community
and let people really understand.
100%. And we can, normalize having conversations about all the things our kids are seeing on the news.
Exactly.
All the things that our kids are experiencing. Then we're able to meet them where they're at. So again, we can meet our core tenet, which is our kids can graduate successfully.
Oh, I like that. But how difficult for you? Because here you are, a young man, you just kind of found yourself, then you had to change and hide things. And that's so hard, so harmful. Now you're dedicating yourself to make sure that young people don't have to do that.
Absolutely. And we know if our professionals can't show up at work as their authentic selves, they're not going to be bringing their best selves to work. And the same goes for our kids. If they can't show up in their spaces, be it home, community spaces, church, school, wherever, if they can't show up as their authentic selves, they're not going to be able to thrive. And that's what we are doing. That's what Equality Florida is doing, is
Right.
making sure every single child can thrive.
Well, for many years, Harvey and I have attended the gala. It's coming up again this time, May 22nd, virtual. But in those many years, I always stand and listen about Equality Florida, but I don't know if I ever really took it in till right now, talking to you, talking to Don, and understanding the work that needs to be done for the LGBTQ community to continue to thrive and for us to understand. And the Q, discuss that for a moment, has two connotations.
Yeah, so when you hear LGBTQ, the LGB is talking about sexual orientation,
Okay.
lesbian, gay, bisexual. When you hear the T, that's talking about gender identity, and that would be trans or transgender people. And then the Q would be for the word questioning, for all the people who maybe aren't sure if they're a part of the community or not. But what we know in Florida is for the year 2019, high school age students, 18.2% self-identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or unsure of their sexual orientation, and 1.5% as transgender.
Oh, that says a lot. So yes, it's important work that you're doing. And we appreciate you. And we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm pleased to introduce my next guest, Tamara Leonardo, President of the Pride Community Center of North Central Florida. Tamara, it's wonderful to have you join us to continue this conversation on the LGBTQ plus community.
Thank you so much for having me.
Certainly. And the Pride Center of North Central Florida, a place my husband and I have been to many times. But tell us the history, the why, the when.
Sure.
Give us the knowledge.
So the Pride Center exists to provide services, resources, events to the LGBTQ plus community to foster our well-being and visibility in all of North Central Florida. We, although we are GainesvillePride.org, we do serve 14 counties in the area.
Wow.
We were founded about 20 years ago, and one of our co-founders was the late Terry Fleming, who is just an instrumental person in Gainesville. He really spearheaded every effort at the Pride Center. His heart was in everything, and his leadership was just unmatched. And so
since his passing almost a year ago, April 28th, 2020, I know how difficult it has been to carry on the traditions and to carry forward with the Pride Center, because he was the heart and soul of so much.
He really was, and he knew all the ins and outs of everything. So, it's certainly been a learning curve for those of us who are still at the work, but we are still at the work.
Yes.
Even despite COVID, so the Pride Center has been closed and is currently closed due to COVID to the public. However, we have continued some important programs. One of those being the GAP program, which is the Gainesville Area AIDS Project. So that has been continuing to run. Every week we're able to provide lunches and household and personal supplies to our HIV and AIDS clients. So that work has
essential.
continued. Yeah.
You've continued.
Yes. We've also been able to continue hosting HIV-free confidential testing once every month. And then we've also allowed groups to come. So our center is usually a place where people can have their events and their meetings. During COVID, we've scaled back a bit, but we did let groups who felt comfortable meeting to meet, with COVID precautions. And so we're hoping that, as things are improving, that we'll be able to open back up to the public and to resume our events.
Oh, certainly, the day's going to come. But you have so much, too, on your website. I saw seminars, talks about reaching out to kids and many different ways that you're still reaching the community.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still work that we've been able to do despite the COVID limitations.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand. We miss the Pride Week and the festival and the walk, but all of those, the parade, all of those will come back.
Yes.
But once again, the Pride Center, you speak of it as a safe place, as a place for visibility. What do those words really mean?
Sure. So safe place, I think, can mean several things. It's a physically safe place. The center, when we've been able to be open, it is a place where LGBTQ plus people can come and know that they won't be targeted, harassed, discriminated against. It's a physically safe place. It's an emotionally safe place.
And that was a lot behind the starting of it so many years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the visibility, I think ties into also being a safe space. So things like the rainbow crosswalks that were installed last year. That was for the Gainesville Art and Crosswalks program, and we unveiled those on National Coming Out Day in 2019. Things like that, they show a newcomer to town. Immediately, it's visible to them that there are people here who welcome you. This is a safe place for you. You're not alone. You're part of a community.
And that's a visible sign that this is a welcoming community, and you can find your place within it.
Absolutely, and I think that's so important for young people trying to figure themselves out, for older people trying to figure themselves out.
Yes.
And to have the Pride Festival, that's really an enormous opportunity for the community, not just the LGBTQ plus community, but for our friends and allies and family members to come out and celebrate and
to bring everyone together. Right,
truly pride in who we are, not being ashamed, and I think that's invaluable for people to see that who you are is valid and it's real and it's accepted and it's celebrated. That's what Pride's all about.
Those are very good words. Thank you so much, Tamara. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about Equality Florida. And Tamara, Terry Fleming is being appropriately recognized and remembered, and one has just occurred. Tell us about April 28th.
Terry was an enormous part of our community, and so the city of Gainesville proclaimed April 28th, 2021, Terry Fleming Day.
So wonderful.
It was a beautiful proclamation, and it really honored the life and service of our dear friend and leader.
I think that it's so appropriate, and yet it's hard to believe a year could have passed. And I know for you, he was such a mentor in the Pride Community Center. It's very difficult.
It really was. And so I think having that day, the anniversary of his death, having that be a day to honor him and to remember his tremendous work, it's just a beautiful bit of a redemption of that day, I think, for many of us. And in fact, the proclamation, little celebration on the 28th was done at one of the crosswalks that Terry worked so hard to spearhead, to get that to happen, and to fundraise to cover the expense so that we could pay it forward for another organization.
I love knowing that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's equally wonderful to see his honor coming up at the Greater Gainesville Gala, of course, all virtual now via Zoom, but Terry Fleming will be receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm sorry we can't all be there in person for this type of celebration, but we will all be coming in through Zoom, as I said.
Absolutely.
And people can sign up for the Zoom link and certainly donate in terms of contributions and sponsorships, although this year to attend, as it's virtual, is free of charge. But it's going to be a special event.
Yes, and in fact, the sponsorships are being matched by a local donor, I believe.
Yes, Ken Colin is offering that. Very important. And wait, there's another match. Now I have to get it right. The Equality Florida has been chosen for match opportunities as a beneficiary of the Florida AIDS Walk.
Yes, that's right.
So that is another tremendous honor for the good work of Equality Florida in a good way, like you're saying, to pay it forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And Simone Chris, she is being honored with, I got to get it right, the Voice for Equality Award. She's an attorney with Southern Legal, so she'll be receiving her award also during that gala, virtual gala.
Wonderful. I can't wait.
I know. But again, for you have told me you struggled in your growing up years in your life. Do you see that things are moving forward? Is there greater dialogue? Is there greater acceptance? Are we getting there?
I think there is absolutely progress, and events like the gala, where people can normally dress up. I mean, I suppose this year in our living rooms we can wear pajamas if we want, but
we can dress from the waist up.
Yeah, exactly.
No mask needed.
Right. Things like that, and the Pride Festival, events where we can come together and, like we talked about earlier, to celebrate and be in community and to see others and to be seen as our authentic selves. These are just really valuable opportunities.
I appreciate that. All the good knowledge that you have presented to us with Dawn, with Ian, the Safe Schools project that he is working with as Associate Director. All these many ways that we are moving forward. We value all of that knowledge, and thank you for sharing so much with us through our program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And I will look for you on Zoom. And I hope I will see all of you. Don't forget the gala coming to you virtually on Saturday evening, May 22nd at 6 p.m. You can join us, and I'm so glad that you did join us for our program, and I hope you will tune in next week. Take care.